What's up, guys? So yeah, on this video here, I can officially say I take pleasure in actually letting you guys know that this video here is about mixing. So it's not about mastering; it's about mixing. I'm gonna touch on a bit of mastering, just a bit, because I'm still learning it. But with mixing, I can fairly say that I'm just about what, maybe 40%, 50%. I don't know, I don't know. But I'll teach you what I know so far and what I've learned from YouTube videos on and other people per se, and working with people on different projects. So let me just disclose that. Let me just say a few things first. So firstly, the stuff that I'll teach you guys, you must understand again. I'll repeat this, and this applies to not just this video here, but all the video series that are on this channel here, and everything that I teach you guys. Everything that I teach you guys is stuff that is self-taught type of thing. So it's either it's self-taught or I learned it through YouTube, which is still self-taught type of thing indirectly. But point is, like, I learn these things myself. Like, I don't have somebody that comes to me and says, okay, this is how you do mixing, this is how you do mastering, this is how you do the kick, this is how you do sound frequencies, this is how you do this and that. I learned this myself. I literally go on Google and I type stuff, and I research, and I try and read up as much as I can, and I practice that out on the tracks until I get something that I'm looking for. You get what I'm saying? Then I remember that, and I keep on doing that on every track until I remember it. So yeah, that's why I've actually been doing this thing for a long time. I started production in about 2009, end of 2009, and basically I literally told myself Fruity Loops. So most people actually tend to ask, like, dude, you've been in the game for so long, how come you haven't made it yet? How come you're still not well known, type of thing? And the issue is, you can be in the game for 10 years, but only to find that for the first 5 years of the game, you've actually been learning the software of production. You get what I'm saying? Then that defeats the purpose of how long you've been in the game. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, but otherwise, the point I'm making is that everything that I'm teaching you guys, everything that I've put on videos, it's self-taught material. It's stuff that I use on my own tracks. I'm not gonna teach you stuff that I don't do. I'm not gonna say, hey, go click on this so that you know and see what goes. I'll teach you stuff that I've used and I've done before, and I know to some degree what it does. So yeah, I just want to get that out the way for you guys, and then what I'll do now is I'll quickly make a nice simple, just a kick, hi-hat, clap, and a few basic sounds, you know just a quick track, so I can show you guys how to actually go about, let's say, hypothetically mixing a track, and you must understand that this is just my way. This is what I assume you do. Well, it's part of it. I'm pretty sure it's part of it, but you're gonna learn. First, you have to understand what mixing is, and if you understand what mixing is, then you're gonna understand why I'm saying it's actually part of it. So mixing, basically, what you're doing when you're mixing is you're adjusting the volume of the sounds. You're adjusting the volume of the sounds. You're adjusting the way the sounds are located on the spectrum per se, because you need to understand that sounds work in frequencies. You see, so what you're doing is you're basically making sure that each sound is occupying its own frequency and it's not interfering with other sounds. So if you want to understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about frequencies, go to the previous video on parametric EQ 2 and check that out, and that will basically just explain everything to you. What am I talking about when I'm talking about frequencies? And then you'll be able to understand what I'm saying. So in other words, to make things simple, you don't want, if let's say the hi-hat should be at a certain frequency, you don't want some of the kick to be occupying that frequency, because then it's going to affect the hi-hat, the loudness of the hi-hat, and all those things there. So mixing, basically what you're doing is you're just putting things in order. You get what I'm saying? It's like if you come into a room, in a room you can only have so much. You get what I'm saying? Like in my room, I can have a bed, I can have a laptop, and I can have my MIDI controller, a printer, my speakers, all those things there. You get what I'm saying? But all these things here have to be in their own environments. I can't now take my speakers and put them where my printer is supposed to be, because then that's gonna affect like where I place my speaker, and my printer type of thing. So everything needs to be organized in its own and occupy its own space at the same time, and not affect the other sounds. You get what I'm saying? At the same time, you don't want to cut off so much frequencies from it that you distort the sound. So mixing is basically just separating the sounds in a nice manner, in such a way that you can tell the difference and it sounds good. It's good quality. That's basically mixing as a whole. And that's why they say you need a good ear for it, because it takes a lot of time. You need to listen to your track over and over again. Hear if you panned it correctly. Did you pan it correctly? Did you not pan it correctly? all those things there, there's no correct way of panning, but there is too much panning and too little panning. So yeah, so let's just assume that this is our track here, the one we just made now. So let's listen to it. So straight off as the track is playing, what I pick up is that this is too high, the hi-hat is too high, the hi-hat is too high. So what I want to do is I want to take the volume down, so I just simply do this. You see, so for me that makes me happy. What about this sound? Yeah, that sound is also a bit loud, but I don't like it like this, so maybe I'll just cut off a bit of it like this, make it the way I want it to be. So that's just basically just making your sound the way you want it to be. That's not really mixing. So now let's get into the hardcore part of mixing. So now I'm going to add an extra sound. I'm going to add the sound, yeah, and that. So flip. Anyway, so it's fine. I'll just do this. Quickly do this for you guys. So there'll probably be like a second tutorial for this because obviously I'm running out of time. So let me just copy and paste because it's going to take a lot. So there's our track. So now let's analyze the track for now. So what you're hearing now is, if you listen to a track using headsets, or if you're listening to it through speakers, what you're gonna hear is actually that everything is in the center. So what do I mean when I say everything's in the center? I mean nothing is panned to the left, nothing is panned to the right. Panning is basically saying I want the sound to sound more on the left side than on the right. You get what I'm saying? That's what you basically do when you're panning. So you're just dealing with this part here. So this is what you're doing when you're panning. For those that don't understand, this is panning. See, it's on the left, it's on the right, partly on the right, but you can hear a bit of it on the left, in the center. So all the sounds are in the center. They just they're in the natural position basically. So when you're mixing, you deal with panning and you deal with basically setting the sounds in a particular background and placing them in a certain background, within the track. So usually the kick, you leave it in the center, so you can tweak the kick however you want, but you leave it in the center so you don't pan the kick. Then you deal with the other sounds and you deal with different things to do with mixing. So let's put in the hi-hats and then let's play the track. So you can hear the hi-hats is in the center as well. So then you click on your sound like that, you go to this part here, it's in MICSC, I think it's something, I don't know what it is, and that's where you basically do at least like maybe a quarter or half of your mixing. So you deal with these knobs here, these ones there, all of these. So let's say you wanna take it, maybe you feel like the sound is too forward, it's too much in your face, you wanna put it to the background a bit, so you can do this. You see how that just automatically takes it to the background. Then you can even pan it even. You see how now it's like occupying its own space in a way, and that already has done a bit of mixing to it. Then maybe you can start adding the other sounds. You see, so you like the sound there, maybe you want that sound to be on the right. You see what I'm saying? Also maybe a bit on the background. Maybe do this. Maybe it's too on the right, so you just, but you see how the whole ear part, how you keep on listening to the sound and making sure that everything is in the right order and it's in the correct place and it makes sense to you. This is where the ear comes in. You see, because right now to me it sounds like this sound here is too much on the right. You get what I'm saying? I feel like it's too much on the right, so maybe I might do that. Then we have that sound there. See? See? So maybe I'm happy this sound just being there. You get what I'm saying? And then let's just like was clicking right there. And then so fine, that's just a few basic tips on mixing, and I'll explain something, and then we go on and continue on part 2, where we now bring in the frequencies, different frequencies, that what we did on parametric EQ2. We're gonna start bringing that into the whole mixing process, and you're basically gonna see how it all fits in together, you know. But again, I must emphasize the fact that this process is what you do it over a long period of time. You're not gonna do it like I'm doing now. Obviously now what I'm doing is just for the tutorial to show you what you use and you don't use, the different knobs that you use and all those things there. Yeah, and you also use these things here. You can just play around with these two here, this one here, you know, and see what it does. But basically just play around with this whole punch here. And you can also play on the function this side here. And all of these mainly work if you have feed on it. So if you add feed to your sound, then you can start playing around with these ones too, you know, and controlling the feed and controlling the feedback that you get, and controlling basically controlling the feedback. And then you can just, as you learn more about it, the more you can start going on to different parts of the whole thing here and just working on them, you know. But anyway, check out the next tutorial on mixing continue type of thing, and we're gonna start taking this whole thing here onto the mixer here, and basically that's it. So yeah.